Evening. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Town of Wendell Board of Commissioners. Welcome. We're so happy to have all of you here tonight. We have a very unique meeting tonight, a variety of different things that we're going to be discussing. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Carver Elementary School, Carter Martin. Let's sit right here. Carter had a great day at school today. His favorite thing is recess and writing. So Carter Martin is a student in Mrs. Cooper's kindergarten classroom at Carver Elementary School. He is a bright, inquisitive, and creative young man who is eager to learn. He's a great classroom leader and an empathetic friend. He's always willing to help friends who are sad or a teacher who needs an extra hand. Carter is incredible, and the world's a better place because he's in it. We're so proud of you, Carter. All right.
Pledge allegiance in the flag of the United States of America and the republics in which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Good man. Good job.
Thank you, Carter. You can go back to your family now. Thank you very much. For our invocation tonight from the Wendell Council of Churches, we're going to hear from Ed Keegan from St. Eugene's Catholic Church. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, for the commissioners.
Raise the microphone up.
And if you'd like to hear me, I think I better adjust the microphone. Let us pray. Lord, grant that we may always allow ourselves to be guided by you. Always follow your plans and perfectly accomplish your holy will. Grant that in all things, great and small, today and all days of our lives, we may do whatever you require of us. Help us respond to the slightest promptings of your grace so that we may be your trustworthy instruments for your honor. May your will be done. Amen. And before I go, I just wanted to remind everyone that Thursday, May 2nd, is National Day of Prayer, and that the Wendell Council of Churches will be sponsoring a non-denominational prayer service at our town square, J. Ashley Wall Town Square, at 7 p.m. So all are welcome, and I hope to see you all there.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding us.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to add item 4B, a presentation by Wendell Rotary Club.
Right. Item 4B, presentation by Wendell Rotary Club. Is that a motion to approve with the addition of item number 4B?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Public comment period. Just a minute, let's see if we have anyone signed up for public comment tonight. Real quickly, as a reminder, you can sign up for public comment the night of the meeting in person at the door. You will have 3 minutes to speak, or you can submit written statements via email to the town clerk on Friday before the meeting. And if they're received in a timely fashion, they'll be read into the record for the length of 3 minutes. We have no one signed up tonight. All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's move into our recognitions, reports, and presentations. Item 4A is a recognition of Carver Elementary School staff member, Miss Shannon Cooper. Carver is so excited to celebrate Miss Cooper this evening. Ms. Cooper is new to Carver this year, but is a career teacher of 22 years of experience in pre-K and kindergarten. As a kindergarten teacher, she bears the responsibility of laying the foundation for our youngest learners' educational journey. She came to us with an extraordinary blend of patience, creativity, and unwavering dedication, and we are so glad that she has become a Carver Bear. Ms. Cooper has impacted the students at our school positively through her continuous attention to their individual needs, Ms. Cooper strives to maintain a positive, caring, and inclusive learning environment for her students where every child feels valued and cherished. Academic achievement is certainly a priority for Ms. Cooper, and her students have shown tremendous academic gains this year. She also prioritizes teaching her students other essential life skills such as boundaries and social norms. Ms. Cooper is an advocate for educating the whole child, which is evident in just a short visit in her classroom. Ms. Cooper maintains and sets high expectations for her students to ensure a consistent commitment to learning and growing throughout her classroom. Her happy, energetic personality brings a bright spirit to the classroom necessary to promote a positive learning environment. Ms. Cooper is a cheerleader of the kindergarten team. As she leads her team, she stays positive and shows a consistent effort to help her team meet the diverse needs of their students. Ms. Cooper's impact extends far beyond our school walls. She is shaping our future leaders with kindness, compassion, and love for learning that will last a lifetime. Well, when I got that and I read it, I was like, wow, that's very high praise. And we are so pleased to have you in Wendell. And we're glad that your first year has been great. And we wanted to have you and recognize you and thank you for everything you do for our kids in Wendell. So thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. All right, item 4B is a presentation by the Wendell Rotary Club. We're going to hear from former Mayor Harold Broadwell. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm
Nice to
still
see you.
Harold Broadwell. I'm still former. It's my pleasure and privilege to be here and speak to you, Mayor, speak to the commissioners, Town Attorney, Mr. Colley. Good to see you always. Mr. Collins, Town Manager, good to see you. I'm a little nervous because this is something that matters to me. I've been a member of the Wendell Rotary Club for 22 years now. And I'll tell you a little bit about Rotary. Paul Harris was a Chicago, Illinois attorney. He formed a club in 1905, which later became Rotary International. Rotary International now has over 1.4 million members. The Rotary Club of Wendell is a part of Rotary International. When Harris was elected as president of that club in 1907, his first club, the first club, the first public service project that they undertook was to provide public toilets for the city of Chicago. Service above self is the motto of Rotary, and it exemplifies the ideal of unfettered public service and service to humankind. Globally, Rotary members work together and recognize various needs in the world and together contribute to promote peace, fight disease, provide clean water, sanitation, and hygiene, aid mothers and children, support education, support local economic growth, which I hope our club does, and also to protect the environment. Those are our 7 areas of focus. The Paul Harris Fellow recognition is an honor and acknowledges a person who has made substantial contributions to the Rotary and to Rotary Foundation, or is named and honored by someone who has made substantial financial contributions to Rotary International through the Rotary Foundation. The Rotary Foundation is our money arm which supports the 7 areas of focus I mentioned earlier. And in the little over 100 years since it was founded, the Rotary Foundation has spent over $1.4 billion on life-changing sustainable projects around the world. From time to time, a Rotary Club may award the honor or recognize an individual who has made substantial contributions and who meets the high professional standards of Paul Harris. Paul Harris Fellows include people as diverse as entertainer Pearl Bailey, former U.S. President Jimmy Carter, Russian President Boris Yeltsin, U.S. astronaut James Lavelle, and the polio vaccine developer Jonas Salk. And the eradication of polio was one of Rotary's major global efforts. And through Rotary, we have almost eliminated wild polio in the world. Tonight, the Rotary Club of Wendell recognizes Wendell Town Manager Mark Collins as a Paul Harris Fellow. Mark was president of our club for 2 years during the COVID pandemic. He kept us together. He kept us moving forward. He kept us on a schedule. And he certainly exemplifies the high professional and personal standards of Paul Harris. So Mark, if you would, I'd like to present you. And I don't think Mark really likes a lot of
He doesn't, but just do
public
it anyhow.
things, but he's been important to our club. He's been important to me. He's important to the community in the town of Wendell. So on behalf of the Rotary Club of Wendell, I present you with a certificate naming you as a Paul Harris Fellow. Thank you for your service. It's my pleasure and privilege to give it to you. And
Got a police officer back there if you're going for something.
it's a weapon. It is your Paul Harris pin, which I will not pin on you unless you want me to. You bled enough lately? Does that mean you want to bleed some more? Okay, but he will have this pin, which will allow his fellow Rotarians and other people to recognize him as a Paul Harris Fellow. Thank you again for your service. And that's why I'm here. Thank y'all.
Very nice. Congratulations, Mark.
I will say that as club president of the Wendell Rotary, Mark can be mad at me. So thank you, Mark, for all you do. And this is just a small part of that. So thank you, sir.
All right, we'll move into section 5, our public hearings. Item 5A is an evidentiary hearing on a special use permit request by Nikita Zotov, I believe, to allow dwelling multifamily apartments at 10 South Main Street, PIN number 1783698741. Mr. Cawley, can you talk to us about the special use permit hearing guidelines?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. This is a special use permit. It's also known as an evidentiary hearing or a quasi-judicial hearing at which due process rights are afforded. The council or commissioners sit as finders of fact, like a judge, more so than legislators, which is your typical rezoning request. Witnesses are sworn in. Certain evidence has to be presented by persons with credentials like experts, depending on the subject matter. And typically start these hearings because impartial decision makers are required. We like to start these hearings with a disclosure, recognition of any conflicts. If you have been lobbied or had ex parte conversations, just go ahead and get those on the record and make sure that you have an open mind and can hear the matter.
Anybody have anything?
Mayor, I'd just like to kind of comment, and I spoke to Town Attorney Mr. Cawley. I'm a neighboring property of the property in question today, and I attempted to visit the neighborhood meeting. I was a few minutes late. I called the engineer on the project and just spoke to him. I had a couple questions from regarding the project outside of that meeting time, but I would say as far as my involvement in sitting here on the board, as I told the attorney, I can remain very impartial As far as what it is, I had some concerns, but that should not affect my decision tonight.
Okay. Anyone else?
Madam Mayor, I know the applicant's socially a member of several clubs with him, but I can remain impartial.
Anyone else? All right, anyone that is going to be given evidence or testimony needs to come up and be sworn, please, by the clerk. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you.
No. Okay, you said you, okay. All right.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. The request this evening is to hold the evidentiary hearing and act on a special use permit request for property located at 10 South Main Street. They are requesting a special use permit to allow dwelling multifamily apartments, 2 apartments on the second floor of the existing building. Currently, the property is zoned downtown mixed use. This requires a special use permit in the DMX district. Their intent is to create 2 apartments. Their building plans have been approved in the portal, so they are fully designed and meet building code for those apartments. The town's UDO does require a special use permit for this. Currently, the upstairs of the building is used for storage. There are 2 businesses on the first level, Saved Arrangements located in the space fronting West 3rd, and Lavage, Colonics, and Wellness is in the space fronting South Main Street. Across the street to the north is a hair salon, Farmers and Merchant, Carolina Brewing, and to the northeast is Simply Blush Bridal Shop. Across the street is Larry's Tailor, with an apartment above that, a nail salon, PY Run, and an architectural firm. Wendell Eye Care is located just to the south of the building, and Little Doodle's Play Cafe is a few doors down on 3rd. Within a 5-minute walk are several restaurants, cafes, shops, and Campen Street where the Wendell Market is held. It's a prime mixed-use downtown core area. As I said, the property is zoned downtown mixed use, coded to encourage redevelopment expansion of the traditional downtown. Individual buildings are encouraged to be mixed vertically with street-level commercial and upper-level residential or commercial uses. Higher densities of residential develop are encouraged in the downtown mixed use. Special use permit criteria. The criteria is laid out in the town's UDO. Criteria A, that the proposed use does not affect adversely the general plans for the physical development of the town as embodied in this ordinance and any other plan or portion thereof adopted by the Board of Commissioners. Blueprint Wendell 2030 contains 2 goals related to the need to add additional residential units within the downtown core. Residential living in those goals in the core can assist with creating the vibrancy of downtown. Criteria B, the proposed use will not be contrary to the purposes stated for these regulations. The creation of multifamily housing within the town of Wendell requires either a conditional district rezoning or a special use permit. The applicant did file for the special use permit. Criteria C, the proposed use will not adversely affect the health and safety of residents and workers in the town. The applicant's requesting to create 2 apartments, 2 residential units. There already is an apartment across the street. And the residential nearby south of the project as well. Criterion D, the proposed use will not be detrimental to the use of development of adjacent properties or other neighborhood uses. The applicant is proposing that the residents of the 2 apartment units park within the existing on-street public parking space. UDO does say that projects can use the parking along their frontage. In this case, there are 7 parking spaces along the property frontage. 1 is along 3rd, 6 are along South Main. All have 2-hour parking designation. And that was staff wanted to make reference to that with those spots being designated for 2-hour parking. The applicant's engineer provided an updated statement on parking. That statement is the proposed residential use will require 3 parking spaces. This compared to a commercial use will generate less demand for parking during normal business hours. The owners are proposing shared on-street parking as the demand for residential parking is highest after business hours. The owners will also propose a parking agreement with a nearby business owner that has off-street parking. This would be for residential parking during weekends, holidays, and/or nights when those businesses are closed. nearby businesses that are closed during the weekend and at night, with private off-street parking lots are within 500 feet of the building, and there are adequate pedestrian facilities connecting the parking and proposed residences. Criteria E, the proposed use will not be affected adversely by existing uses. As I mentioned earlier, a mixture of retail, office, restaurant, and residential uses all exist within one block of the site. Criterion F, the proposed use will be placed on a lot sufficient size to satisfy the space requirements. The existing building, which is like many other buildings in the downtown, follows the property lines, and the lot cannot accommodate any parking on site. The applicant is proposing the residents utilize existing on-street parking. And then the applicant did add that statement that we've added to the report right before it went out. Criterion G, the proposed use will not constitute a nuisance or hazard because of the number of persons who will attend or use the facility. It's 2 residential units. One of the units is a 1-bedroom and the other is a 2-bedroom within the existing building. Criterion H, the standards set forth for each particular use project for which a permit may be granted have been met. The applicant has submitted building plans for the renovation and construction of the apartments. They have received approval from Wake County as the plans meet North Carolina Building Code. The applicant, the special use permit would need to be granted before any building permit could be issued for the project. Criteria I, the board may impose or require such additional restrictions and conditions. The board can add conditions on any special use permit that you feel can address any kind of neighborhood concerns or the safety of residents and protect the value and use of the general neighborhood. Criterion J, the proposed use shall be subject to the minimum area setback and other location requirements of the zoning district. The applicant is proposing to utilize an existing building within the DMX zoning district. The setbacks are 0 along the front, side, and rear for all buildings in that downtown district. Criterion K, I'm going to go through a couple slides just to address the parking. Criteria K, the proposed use shall be subject to the off-street parking and service requirements. For residential uses, the UDO requires 1 parking space per bedroom up to 2 per unit. The proposed apartments will require 3 parking spaces. General parking requirements, exemptions, and adjustments states on-street parking, where parking on-street is permitted, in this case it is, the on-street space is directly along a parcel's frontage for any use except a single family. In this case, it's multifamily, not single family. So they may count towards the minimum parking requirement. The parcel's frontage contains 1 on-street space along West 3rd Street and 6 along South Main Street for a total of 7. However, the 7 parking spaces are all right now designated, not designed, sorry about that, as 2-hour parking from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Criterion K, continued shared or combined parking. The UDO does allow that. It addresses private off-street shared. So for example, if you're a restaurant and a church maybe on next to each other, the demand for those spaces on each other's property varies based on the use. And so there could be an agreement in place for uses that don't use the parking at the same time within the UDO. And then we also have satellite parking, which may be permitted as long as they meet the criteria. And one of them is, the criteria is when it's within 500 feet and within walking distance, accessible by sidewalks or other designated safe walkways. In this case, the applicant's proposing parking agreement with a nearby business owner that has off-street parking within that 500 feet of the building. At this time, we were not provided which business that is, and so we just provided the update from the applicant. Comprehensive plan blueprint Wendell does classify this as downtown core. Commercial mixed use, those are all multifamily, all identified in that downtown core. The applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting on April 4th. Those meeting notes are included in your attachment. And as for special use permits, Town of Wendell planning staff presents the staff analysis but does not make a recommendation on a special use permit. However, staff is requesting 2 conditions if the special use permit is approved. We did run legal advertisement, as you can see on those dates. Public hearing notice was also placed on the property. We are conditions of approval if you do find for approval. If the Board of Commissioners makes a motion to grant the special use permit, we're asking that the conditions, all applicable building permits, laws, and code are obtained or maintained. And 2, that a parking agreement that meets the ordinance requirements be in place prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the apartments. I can field any questions you have. The applicant is here as well.
Okay, let's open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board?
I do have one staff question. Make sure I understand the parking piece. Sort of, I think I understood the options that you laid out as how this, what, the different options that would meet the ordinance requirements. Is there street parking that's not subject to a current ordinance related to time-limited parking within 500 feet? And do I understand correctly that if the answer to that is yes, that that was one of the options, was having parking within 500 feet?
So the satellite parking may be permitted for off-site. So that's off-site parking, not in the public right-of-way. The shared or combined parking is also on the same zoning lot. So it's not, there's not a shared agreement or combined parking using on-street as an option. And so they have 7 spaces and meet code. The staff concern is that those 7 spaces are all 2-hour parking and can cause an enforcement issue or a concern with nearby businesses for that 2-hour. So all 7 spaces that front their building are designated from 2-hour parking from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
But additional spaces within, to the next slide after this one, to the 500-foot satellite park. Satellite parking has to be privately owned. Town-owned parking couldn't meet this requirement of the
Yeah,
ordinance.
it says off-site parking, so for us, that would mean on someone else's site, not on the public right-of-way.
And I guess this is coming from, and my concern is the recommended, on the next slide, the staff recommendation, of the second condition, is that really locking into that, finding an agreement with the neighboring property owner that this project can't move forward without that happening? If that were adopted?
Yeah, so our condition of approval based on their statement, which was that they were working with a private business owner within 500 feet to provide off-street parking. And so the condition that we added, if you found reasonable, would be that they have to have an agreement in place before certificate of occupancies for those 2 apartments.
Which would be 3 spaces.
Yes.
Second question, if that's all right, Mayor. Being conscious of distinguishing different floors of a building, is staff comfortable that the way that the permit would be drafted would lock in this concept that we're talking about second floor residential, as opposed to first floor residential, or 2 apartments, one on the first floor and one on the second floor, or some other version of other than 2 apartments on the second floor?
So their application is for dwelling multifamily 2 apartments on second level of existing building. So their intent is just the 2 multifamily units on the second floor. If they wanted to create more multifamily on the site, they would need to amend the special use permit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, does the applicant like to be heard?
I'm representing the applicant, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, give me your name.
John Oglesby, 535 Barrett Lane, Archer Lodge, North Carolina.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant's representative?
You speak to the parking agreement.
Can I speak to the parking agreement?
Specifically, if you see this proposed condition approval language as
Yes,
something
the
that's of concern.
statement that was provided to staff was, information was gathered from several owners. There's an LLC. And with the information that I gather from them, plus my knowledge of the ordinance and discussions with staff, we put together that. So that was just not me putting something out there to get this through. That was carefully thought out and approved before it was sent by the owners. So they are under the understanding that they will probably need some type of parking agreement with an adjacent owner just to make these multifamily units more marketable, to where, you know, people that want to rent will understand that they have options to park. And that is in their best interest, in my professional opinion.
Any other questions? Is there anything else you'd like to add?
That's it.
Anyone else sworn? I don't recall that anyone else was. Right. Anything else for the town staff from the board?
Just clarify that the 3 spaces will need to be secured prior to moving forward.
Yeah, that can be part of the motion.
Yeah, before issuance of a certificate of occupancy. So the building permit could get released, construction can occur, but gives them some time to have the agreement in place. Yep.
Anything else? All right, let's close the public hearing. And
Madam Mayor, I move we grant the special use permit and include the following conditions: that all applicable building permits and laws and codes be obtained or maintained, and that a parking agreement that meets the ordinance requirements is in place prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the apartments.
okay. So we have a motion to approve the special use permit with the condition that all applicable building permits and laws and codes are obtained or maintained, and parking agreement that meets the requirements be in place prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right. We'll move into our administrative items now. Item 6A is a waiver of building permit fees for Operation Coming Home project sponsored by the Home Builders Association of Raleigh-Wake County. Mr. Coates.
Yep, good evening, Mayor and board members. The request before you is to approve waiving the Town of Wendell building permit fees totaling $310 for the Operation Coming Home project sponsored by the Home Builders Association of Raleigh-Wake County. Just to give you a little summary, in 2007, a group of local veterans and members of the HBA decided to establish a project for severely wounded veterans. The mission of this project is to aid local military service members who have been injured in combat by fulfilling his or her family desire to live the American dream of home ownership. The HBA has identified the next hero home project as here in Wendell. We did have one a few years ago in Wendell Falls. This one is in the McKenzie Meadows subdivision off Old Zebulon Road. The builder is Pulte Homes. They're requesting that the town and the county waive the building permit fees. Wake County did waive their fees last week at their board meeting. Budgetary impact is very minimal. It's easily coverage by the overages in the planning permit revenue lines. And Paul Kane is here from HBA as well, so we can field any questions that you do have.
All right, any questions from the board?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the waiving of the Town of Wendell building permit fees for the Operation Coming Home project.
We have a motion to approve to waive the Town of Wendell building permit fees for Operation Coming Home project. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, great. Thank y'all for what you do. Thank you, we appreciate it. Item 6B is the Fifth Amendment to the agreement for upgraded streetlight service between the Town of Wendell and the Wendell Falls Community Association.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and board members again. This is the Fifth Amendment to our Wendell Falls streetlight agreement. We are asking that you authorize the town manager to sign the amended streetlight reimbursement agreement. The town's ordinance requires subdivision using more than 25 upgraded streetlight fixtures to have a contract directly with Duke Progress Energy and request the town to reimburse them the cost of the standard pole and fixture. Wendell Falls does use an upgraded kind of pedestrian style streetlight. We have a few other agreements with other subdivisions that are starting, and we anticipate others as well. that decorative street light. Certain neighborhoods like that, and adds a little more decorative from the standard light. On May 30th, 2018, the town entered into its first agreement with Wendell Falls for roughly 95 fixtures. I won't go through every single year, but we've amended, this is our 5th amendment. We are now up to 428 residential streetlights covered in the 5th amendment. There are also commercial streetlights that we are not involved in, and so these are just the residential. This last year, they did cover and add 148 additional streetlights. A lot of phases got under construction. 7B, which is an Encore, the second section of Encore, 10B, C, and D, 11A and 11B are all off of Wendell Valley Boulevard behind Wake Med, and so those are the active, major active phases of Wendell Falls currently. I can field any questions that you have. There was just minor edits between the 4th and 5th agreement.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Coates?
And just to verify, we do get all of their electric bills each month, so we get a tally to verify all the streetlights are on and functioning and paying. So we do get verification from them throughout the process.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, I move we authorize the town managers to sign the amended streetlight reimbursement agreement with Wendell Falls.
All right, we have a motion to authorize the town manager to sign the amended streetlight agreement, reimbursement agreement with Wendell Falls. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No.
Thank you.
Item 6B is a request to temporarily close a portion of North Main Street for the upcoming Pro-Town BMX event. Mr. Pulaski.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. Here requesting a temporary closure for a portion of North Main Street for the upcoming Pro-Town BMX event. Pro-Town BMX is a bike stunt team out of Greenville, North Carolina that is performed all over the world. They will be performing 2 shows on Saturday, May the 18th. Shows will be at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. After each show, they will have autograph session, and they do offer free riding clinics after each one of those shows. In case of weather, the next day, Sunday, would be the rain makeup date. Same times. North Main Street would be closed from 3rd Street to the railroad tracks from 9:30 to 5 p.m. We generally get wrapped up before 5, but that's the absolute latest. Public Works would provide the street barricades and cones for this event with delivery on Friday before the activity. And the Parks and Recreation Department, I have already submitted the sound permit, and we would also staff that event. All Main Street vendors in this vicinity would be notified of the street closure.
Any questions for Mr. Pulaski?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the temporary closing of North Main Street for the Pro-Town BMX event with authorization granted for either scheduled date or a potential rain date.
We have a motion to approve the temporary closing of North Main for the Pro-Town BMX event with authorization granted for either the scheduled date or the rain date. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6D is the decision to approve rankings and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for the request for qualifications for design services for the Wendell Athletic Field Complex project with CHA Consulting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm here seeking a motion to accept the rankings for RFQ 2024-06 and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for professional design services for the Wendell Athletic Field Complex. Staff issued RFQ 2024-06 for professional design services for the Wendell Athletic Field Complex project and requested responses by 2 p.m. on February the 19th. The town received 7 responses to the RFQ by the deadline. Staff reviewed the submissions and ranked the responses based on the submittal requirements in the RFQ document, which was attached. Following the scoring process, staff interviewed the top four firms and ranked submissions in the following order, with number 1 going to CHA Consulting, number 2 Kimley Horn, number 3 McAdams, and 4th Withers Ravenel. Upon approval, staff will negotiate design build services and return the agreed contract to the board for approval. The fiscal year 2024 budget provides funding for from the bond proceedings in the amount of $813,165 for the design of the Wendell Athletic Field Complex. Design would continue through fiscal year 2025 and the construction of the facility in fiscal year 2026. The project is funded by Wake County Tourism Funds and the Town of Wendell Recreation Bonds.
Any questions for Mr. Pulaski?
Madam Mayor, I move we accept the rankings for the RFQ and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract.
All right, we have a motion to accept the rankings for the RFQ 2024-06 and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for the athletic field complex. Is there any discussion on the motion? Wrong? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
very exciting. Item 6E is a resolution for the exchange of properties for the Old Town Hall properties, and we're going to hear from Mr. Collins.
Thank you. Staff's request is actually a motion to table this item tonight. There's some changes that the applicant and town staff both agree need to happen, and
Take it up later.
but we did advertise this as required for state law going through this process. So if you would be so kind as to give both parties a couple weeks.
Okay, so can we get a motion to table it?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, I move we table item 6E.
All right, we have a motion to table item 6E. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Do we need a date certain?
Certain.
Is 2 weeks enough?
May 8th, the first May meeting is fine.
So can we table it to May 8th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the motion is to table it until May 8th. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
And I just would like to add to the record whether there were any comments or objections or anything received in response to the ad that was published.
For the record, town staff received no comments.
Thank you.
Good, bad, indifferent.
All right, item 6A is an amendment of Policy 100, the Town of Wendell's personnel policy. Mr. Collins.
Good evening. So tonight you've had a long-awaited amendment to the personnel policies presented to the board, provided to the board and all town staff in advance of this meeting, consistent with the process set in the personnel policy. Just a review of what the policy does. The adjustments are just to help clarify some changes and interpretations that have been made over the years, make it easier for our employees. We don't have just standard 40 hours employed. Law enforcement officers work a different number of hours, so putting some clarifications in different points that outline the differences between the two. Clarification that the position classification plans available in the budget document each year, that wasn't done in the past, but is a normal standard practice, and gives the board an opportunity to review and adopt with that policy document. It provides drug screening criteria in alignment with current best practices of the town and others. It provides clarification around promotions. It's just to be clear, this consistent with code and statute and charter, town manager authority. Adjustment of the work week consistent with how we pay people, it usually helps. The harassment policy is based on one that's written by the attorney that handles risk cases for the legal municipalities, who's our insurance provider. It was written 2 years ago, so it's up to date and needed. Removes some dated provisions related to employees we no longer have. It adds a benefit for lifestyle benefit account. It provides a dependent fee waiver for parks and recreation programs for dependents of town employees. that was requested by the board in last budget cycle. The addition of Juneteenth, which is a state holiday, to this list, so we do not have to continually approve the list. The revision of vacation leave for payment of up to 40 hours unused after rolling over 240 hours. I did talk with Commissioner Eatman out of this meeting prior, and he had a suggestion for the board's consideration of amendment. And if I butcher it, you're welcome to jump in. But basically, it's not the town's or my intent to encourage people not to take vacation leave. Ideally, people use all their vacation leave and have a good work-life balance. For more tenured employees and sometimes employees that gain straight comp time, your exempt employees, you never get a chance to use that leave. As I presented out in the budget work session, burnout is a common cause of people leaving public employment. Any little pay is one factor that can help reduce burnout with public employees. Having a little additional longevity and effort-based pay at this time, I guess the end of June, early July time period, helps. It's about 6 months away from the last longevity payment that the town provides tenured employees. I liked Dean's suggestion that employees have to use at least 12 hours of leave prior to being eligible for that payout. That way we're still encouraging people to take some form of leave in advance of that. Yes, sir.
The only thing I'll amend, and you explained that much more eloquently than I did when we talked, so thank you, is I know I used the phrase the previous 12 months several times, but I think what I mentioned was 80 hours to equal the 2-week baseline that I think people begin earning within a few years of starting with the town. So I think 80 hours is what I was, or 2 weeks worth of leave time
2 weeks.
is what I had thought about or recommended, or had in mind, I guess I should say.
Whatever the board's leisure is fine. And happy to answer any questions on any review of that.
Any questions from the board? Comments?
I have one question. How much did our random drug screening policy change?
It's not changing from practice. Our random drug screening policy is used for two classes of employees. One is law enforcement officers. Two are people with commercial driver's license, CDLs, that are required to have random drug screenings. So we want to make sure that our process matches the process that's required for their certifications and licenses. Any other testing, there has to be an extreme probable cause that would require it, or if you're hiring a town manager. That's another time you use something like that, but that's a pre-employment screen, this is during employment. So it's a process that we use. It's what was written in the old policy did not follow what is best practice and in current use.
Anything else?
No, it just seemed a bit,
Glad to make any changes the board would like.
it seems between pre-employment and then post-accident or accident, and then reasonable suspicion testing, there wouldn't really be any need for the random, or like, it seems like the random portion is limited to just the people that can be tested anyway, but,
It's required for the CDL licenses. They're all on a random rotation. There's only so many of them, but it is required.
that's all I have.
I've got one question. historically, were some of these things the prerogative of the board? You would send to the board and you would say, hey, like, sometimes it says the town, of the 70-some amended pages that I have, sometimes it says the town manager now could do these things. I guess what I'm shooting at is this. I have great confidence, I'm sure the board does too, in this specific town manager. 100 years from now, if you weren't the town manager,
So it's a good question. State law, the charter, and the code all lay out that it's my responsibility to do these actions. The clarity in words is for the benefit of the users of the policy, the employees.
I'm fine with that then.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there's another clause at the beginning of it that basically says that I can waive most of the stuff in here. So it's just it's a reality. Y'all give me the broad brush to run the organization, and the law says that I do that, and then I report out in all the manners that this offers to make sure that y'all maintain trust in how I do that.
Thank you.
The only other item that I just wanted to make sure that I was really clear on sort of staff perspective and alternative firewalls, I guess, for best practice and oversight is, I guess, the change to mandatory absences or leave for certain periods of time for employees who handle cash. So recognizing that that may no longer be mandated, that everybody who handles cash, the limited number of people that is in the organization, take 5 consecutive days of leave every year. Can you just talk about how that helped me be confident that we'll still be able to catch any problem that I'm confident we won't have, but I think we all always have in the back of our minds?
Yeah, sure. So it's, from doing some research, it is pretty standard through other jurisdictions to have similar policies in place, whether it's a full-blown mandate or given the caveat of reasonable internal controls. Probably the last time this policy was adopted or looked at, our department was probably 2 to 3 people. We're 6 going on 7 now, or 5 going on 6, excuse me. We do have the depth to be able to rotate responsibilities for who's handling cash. Per our auditor's advisement, we do also do random spot checks of cash counting for the drawers. That's my responsibility. And then, lost my train of thought there.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but if it helps to throw one more question in. Not to get too deep into the weeds on the management side, but has the current requirement, does that cause sort of management operational issues, or has it, either with the smaller group or the larger group that you have now?
No, we don't have any issues with our folks taking leave. Fortunately, my staff is utilizing their vacation leave. And we do have, it's preferential to have 3 people available at any given time. So having someone, I think this is what you're asking, having one person on leave does not create a operational bottleneck of any sort.
Okay, that's all super helpful, and I think very reassured ultimately by our current staff in every possible way. I kind of like having the little rule of thumb, and so I'm kind of, I guess, just talking to the rest of the board. I like having the rule of thumb as a standard operation, as it just happens. I think it's a practice, or a standard practice across a lot of public entities, and probably private too, where cash is handled. It's not the end of the world. I'm not dying on a hill, but I'm interested in what other folks think, I guess, or staff.
I'm fine with additional fiscal control and oversight and remaining in there. So if that's a second amendment.
I think the only change would be
leave it as is.
eliminating one clause that is currently stricken through in the version that you've given us.
Yeah.
To just keep that.
Is it just people that handle cash, as in green bills, like cash money? Like, I mean, like, I don't see how you're gonna skim off of credit card transactions, right? So like,
It's a fiscal oversight that was created at a time where the town was also a water sewer provider and would take a lot of account funding, and a lot of that was there's a lot of cash handling. There was a time a number of years ago where finance staff did take money, and so there were protections put in place following that. Currently, at current staffing levels and current technologies, where such a low amount of cash is collected and it's only collected in one place, and we're able, with Garrett and I being proximate to monitor that, there's less of a need. But I mean, I don't have a problem with feeling safe in that space. I'm fine with that. One side is responsive to some entry-level staff having to use a large amount of leave time in a row versus more flexibly when all other employees don't, but sometimes that's just the nature of the work that you choose to do in life.
I'll just add that previously in a financial world, subsidiary owned by a bank, we were used to not only a bank auditor, but a state auditor coming in as well, and it was very commonplace. You had to take time away if you handled money.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's, even though we handle less cash, pretty standard.
Yeah, it's fine. There's no big heartburn. I mean, I'm fine leaving the language in. That's good.
I want to go back to Commissioner Eatman's other one. So, can you explain it again?
Yeah, so, and not to overstep, Mark, like I said, did a good job, so if you want to correct what I say, please. But my thought process here is sort of the minimum base that we provide to our staff, I think, as a benefit, is 2 weeks of vacation. And there's a little bit of a nuance and exception to that, sort of for the very entry-level folks. And then as you build up time and you get into the system more, you earn more vacation than that. I think a lot of our employees work really hard and earn comp time throughout the year that you use first before you use your vacation. Generally, that's the way it works in state government, so I'm thinking that's how it works. So, you know, if I'm a 10-year employee, I'm making these numbers up, but if I've been here for 10 years and I'm earning maybe 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks of vacation in the year, and I'm working overtime enough that I've earned 1 whole week of comp time, all I'm asking is that we work to incentivize folks first to take the bare bones 2 weeks of vacation at some point throughout the year. It doesn't mean be gone for 2 weeks. It could mean in coordination with your manager, be gone for 8 Fridays. There's 10, I guess, is how that number would work. But that can be spread out lots of ways. That's a management decision. That it's not our business. But I think incentivizing financially, assisting financially our staff, especially those who have been here and those who are working a lot of comp time, is great. And I think that's the objective that was laid out in the original proposal from staff about being able to get paid out for once you ultimately accumulate a bunch of this time and it's just kind of sitting there and there's no way for it to benefit you except rolling into sick leave, get it paid out a little bit. All I'm asking is that I don't want anybody to see that as an objective that they need to work toward for their first 5 years with the town, because they know that if they never take vacation after a few years of build-up, they're going to get to 240, they're going to start rolling over, they're going to start getting paid out, and that's going to help balance their budget every summer. I'd like for them to at least take the minimum of 2 weeks worth of time off of work in a 12-month period each year. Certainly, I think most staff, when you combine comp time, sick time, vacation time, we're talking about lots of types of leave that I think would qualify for what I have in mind of 2 weeks' worth of time off of work, which is why it says leave specifically in red down there at the bottom, not vacation leave.
Yeah, our policy does require that people use comp time first. So if it had been worded like you have to use 2 weeks of vacation time, you'd take your hardest working group of people that are always there working the extra hours and then disincentivizing them.
Right.
I would, but taking saying 2 weeks instead of 40 hours or 80 hours, because you get into that law enforcement and 40-hour work weeks, so 2 weeks.
And all of this leave that I'm talking about, I guess, is also an important point. I'm not saying go home for 2 weeks. Paid leave, they're all different. Each of these categories is a type of paid leave that we provide as a benefit to the town staff. I'm just asking that they take advantage of sort of a minimum, a base level, a base amount of that leave each year before, and they don't have to. There's certainly not a requirement that anybody takes any time off. I don't think it's a good practice. But before getting incentivized with a cash payment for not using leave, the layer below that or above that, whichever way you want to think about it, that I would ask is that we set a minimum incentive to take, or an incentive to take a minimum amount of leave each 12-month period. I don't know if that made it more complicated or less.
No, that made it clearer to me. When someone comes to work for the town of Wendell, when are they eligible to have that vacation? You can't be here 2 days and then you're eligible for 2 weeks of vacation.
There's
But you might be eligible for comp time that quickly.
it's in here. I'm trying to remember if was it the 6-month period.
Well, and I do,
So how
Six-
does, I just want to
like
make sure
during your-
that
your
goes with what
prob-
you're saying.
During your probationary period, you're accumulating but can't use unless it's a allowance made before employment or if the town manager waives that.
and just maybe to add on to that, I'm not looking at that leave policy right now, so the numbers I'm going to give aren't going to be accurate, but conceptually, follow me for a second. This only would apply, the payout that's being proposed in the policy would only apply to employees that have accrued 240 hours of unused vacation and then up to 40 additional hours on top of that. So the only way theoretically you could get to that point would be if you got just 40 hours, excuse me, just 80 hours a year, you'd have to be here for 3 years and never take a day off of vacation time to even begin being able to see a way to use this. So those very early employees wouldn't really be implicated in this.
That's why I kind of emphasize the longevity. You're not eligible for longevity until you're with the town 5 years. And that's paid out to employees in December. And so this one happening after the end of the last period, so in early July, right? When,
June, like the last payment in June.
yeah. But we don't pay them right on that, anyway. Yeah, so it's the last payroll in the fiscal year. So when that gets paid out, that's another longevity that helps keep those tenured employees and oftentimes the ones that do have some hours to roll over because they've been putting in that extra.
And I would only add that I think my perspective on this is, as a public sector employee who is also conscious of the benefits associated with unused categories of leave myself, I think being aware of a similar sort of policy, as much as I clearly have stated my own philosophical perspectives about needing to take time off and having a good work-life balance, that I think our town organization really does a good job of promoting right now, I still know that there would be a part of me in the back of my mind that would think, how do I get there? How can I make that happen? And so all I'm asking is that we add one more incentive in addition to those, which is just make sure you're taking time off, make sure you're balancing.
I dislike comp time as a general concept. the hour you get off was never as important as the hour that you put in. The hour you put in is always on Friday night at the last minute, or it's in the middle of the summer on July 4th weekend, and it doesn't play out the same way as when it's okay for your department to have enough people at the office for you to take comp time. I like the ability for employees who have what I'm going to imagine at that point is a lot of comp time to access that, right? Like half of taking time off work is access to capital, the other half is access to days off work. I appreciate the amendment. I don't know that, I would probably go for less than 80 hours. I don't know what that number would be. But to your point, I think you've described it well enough to make me believe that it's a pretty limited issue.
And I might add that I think if this proposal I'm talking about, in addition to the proposal that was originally laid out by staff of the payout, I think this is a new concept to the town organization, a new function of how we interact with and ultimately, hopefully, support staff and make them feel supported and valued. I'd want to hear back, Mark, from you as we go through the year about how it's working. Sort of to Jason's point, if the numbers are wrong, if the whole function's wrong, you know, let us know. I think we'll have time we can make adjustments if we need to.
Will do.
Do you want some time to make these changes and bring it back next time, or what do y'all want, do you feel like you have a handle on what's going on, or you want to think about it?
Well, one of them's just removing the stricken through text to make it just the text that's there.
Right.
So that one's very clear to me. And the other one, Dean's and I actually drafted the language in my office last Friday. So I've got that language already. And I think if you made a motion to adopt the personnel policy as presented with two amendments to leave the language related to
5 consecutive days of leave.
5 consecutive days of leave for finance employees, as is in the pre-existing policy, and amend Article 7, Section 3 to include language that eligible employees include a 2-week leave in the prior 12-month period to be eligible for payout.
You took the words of my motion right out of my mouth. If you're ready for it, Mayor.
Yeah, I'm ready. I was trying to.
That was it.
down.
Do you want me to say, do you
Yeah.
want us to say something
Say it
again?
Yep.
I move that we approve the personnel policy as presented with the addition of 2 amendments, the first of which would retain the existing language associated with 5 consecutive days of leave for finance staff handling cash, and the second of which would add language to Article 7, Section 3, that required that employees use at least 2 weeks of leave in the prior year to be eligible to receive the payment.
Okay, so we have a motion to adopt the recommended amendments with 2 changes. Let's see, we're going to leave the language relating to 5 consecutive days leave for finance employees, and we're going to change Article 7, Section 3 for eligible employees to include 2 weeks leave in prior year to be eligible to receive payment. That was very shorthand, but is that it? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? All right.
Thank you, and thank you to Debbie Kennedy and Stephanie Smith and Garrett and the other department heads who drafted a lot of that. Thank you.
Thank y'all very much. All right, item 6G is a decision on a zoning text amendment update of the UDO Chapter 6, Environmental Protection, and we're going to hear from Sarah Lentine.
And I was just going to pop up. Sarah's here with me
I
tonight.
thought I
as well.
saw her, okay.
Oh, yeah, yes, she is here as well. I'll certainly defer to her for any of the technical pieces. Just with us having spoken about the criminal penalty, I thought I would come up first.
Okay.
All right. Are there any further questions on that? And certainly we have the presentation as well.
All right,
I
any
did not go
questions from the
forward.
board?
Yep.
I'll just add that I looked at those again, and they are all on subjects that, under which the statute allows criminal penalties. There is a statute in 160A that distinguishes between a set of subject matter for which there cannot be a criminal penalty, and none of these are in that group. So these are all permissible criminal penalties.
And just one follow-up question on that. And anybody from staff can take a stab at this, but is there any indication about whether any or all of those penalties that are contemplated or proposed for this town ordinance have parallels in the general statutes, like a state level charge? Are we just duplicating state level charges with local charges, or are these additional? Is it like a jurisdictional thing that we've got to have this to be able to enforce it in Wendell?
No, it's not jurisdictional. You don't have to have it. But there would have to, these would apply in the case of a violation of the local ordinance. The state level criminal charges would apply if the state statute were violated. So these are,
Okay.
these are more specific
Okay,
to Wendell.
thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Madam Mayor, I move we adopt the attached ordinance.
All right, we have a motion to adopt the attached ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right,
Thank you.
y'all. All right, we'll move into our other business real quick. Update on board committees by town board members, and start with Campo, Commissioner Eatman.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a, I think, record-breaking brief Campo meeting last week, I think. There's conflict with the regional or statewide professional meeting, so leadership was at a professional conference, but zoomed in to have a brief meeting with us. I think the biggest thing that's notable for our purposes is as the 540 completion project continues to move now from the 70-40 split and Garner up toward Nightdale. Because that's a toll road, there's sort of a bonus fund that comes along with it. So tolling a project, which was agreed to by Campo quite some time back, gives the region, it buys the project up in the time, so it makes the project happen faster, but it also brings additional funding for other projects near that corridor. So we're in the process of now identifying what those other projects around the 540 corridor are going to be. I think that Pool Road, the whole Pool Road corridor from Raleigh to especially sort of the Smithfield Road intersection, not quite to Wendell, but really the corridor between here and Raleigh for anybody that's not on 264 or Business 64, is going to get some big improvements. And one of those that is also, one additional project that is potentially going to get some funding from that is the Smithfield Road interchange, which is a project that's been funded, not currently funded, hopefully going to get funded again this year. But I think this funding is from 540 is a additional potential way to fund some much-needed improvements at the Smithfield Road interchange on Nightdale Bypass. So working on all those good congestion issues that we're all aware of.
Thank you. Wake County Fire Commission, Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Fire Commission met last week and approved the budget to send, the Fire Commission recommended budget to send to the Wake County Commissioners. It does a lot of cool things. The coolest thing, and there's, if you look on Wake County's website and search their fire academy, Wake County's been operating a fire academy now that has allowed municipal departments and smaller departments from across the county to run one collective academy. It's done amazing things for the background and the diversity of the applicant pool that we've seen, because we're hiring from a countywide perspective. Wendell has 4 recruits in the academy right now that will be coming out next year. In addition to that, in this budget, it adds 4 positions to every fire truck operating in Wake County, where some have, I think, Wendell Station 2 had 2 firefighters. That was a point of contention right after I got on the board. So ensuring that it will have those. And it also includes long-term capital planning for future Wendell location stations, including Station 2, and sets up a pathway to a Wendell Station 4. It also includes a new fire truck for Wendell. So Wendell made out, the fire commission budget process was the smoothest that it's ever been this year. And the benefits of growth are certainly starting to show on the capital side of that budget as well for us.
All right, thank you. Let's move into our commissioners' comments and stay with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the most wonderful time of the year. First, I want to congratulate the manager on the Paul Harris Fellow. I've been in Rotary a limited amount of time, but Mark's character and commitment to ideas that are bigger than him is certainly laudable. So congratulations on that, Mark. It's a fun time to be in Wendell. It is budget season. We spent a couple hours earlier this evening going through the budget. It'll be an exciting release. We are thinking that it could be bigger than, I think Commissioner Lutz thinks it might be bigger than last Friday's release of a new Taylor Swift album. So the budget could drop this Friday, stay on the internet, and keep refreshing. But it's budget season, which means if you want something done in the next year in Wendell, that you need to have that idea included in the budget. So in the coming weeks, you will see us roll out a budget. You will see budget hearings. You will continue to see this budget process that we've been working on since January, and we're all very excited for you to give us feedback on it and tell us what you like, what you don't like. And if you have an idea of something that needs to be in the budget next year, this year, Mark, look forward to having budget conversations over the next week, and we encourage folks to engage and read that document. There's a lot of staff time and effort that goes into laying out processes that are going to impact our town for the next 5 to 10 years. Wendell is drafting budgets now that will, when we say that we're going to do something, we're going to do it, and it's going to be funded, and the plan's going to be executed, and that is great. That is all due to a staff that puts us in the position to be able to say wild things like that from the dais, but full confidence in our budget process. Look forward to folks engaging. Again, thank you to staff. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Lutz,
No comment tonight.
Commissioner Eatman.
In addition to the joys of budget season, today is Earth Day and the beginning of National Parks Week. And while we don't have a national park in Wendell yet, we do have lots of good parks to go out and enjoy the beautiful earth around us. So just thanks to all the staff who are involved in taking care of those great places, and thanks to the rest of the board for supporting those good projects, including stormwater, which is an important part of taking care of the earth. I've heard a lot about stormwater lately.
A lot today. Commissioner Honeycutt,
None at this time, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Deloach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Real quick, congratulations again, Mr. Manager. Wendell Rotary is certainly better because of you. We appreciate you. This past weekend, I was not here for Meet on Main. Heard it was fantastic. Spent time in Stanton, Virginia. Fun fact about Stanton, it's actually credited with creating the city manager form of government, which was formally adopted in 1908. So fun fact while I was there. Spent a great deal of time in their downtown. Hopefully got some ideas that I took away from there that I feel like will have an impact on the future of our downtown. Excuse me. May 4th in downtown, we've got a first responders event. Can't remember the formal name of that, but EMS, fire, police. I got an excited phone call from my daughter, who will actually be in downtown representing Wake EMS. So she's excited, and I'm excited to have her. So if you see Hattie, say hello. Also, Canes banners throughout town. We are now formally and officially considered Canes country. So we'll be leaving here shortly and hopefully heading over to see Victory. So thank you to the Hurricanes organization. Thank you to town staff. And I did bring my Cause Chaos. Whoa. So Go Canes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I have a few quick reminders for you. On April 30th, it's a Tuesday, we're going to be holding here in the town hall, the Lake Myra County Park Community Meeting. It's the opportunity for you to find out what's going to happen at the Lake Myra Community Park. If you're unable to attend that night, there's a lot of great information online on their website. You can take a look at the information that they're going to be presenting, all the meeting materials, and their master plan is available for you to look at. So take a look at that, or come here and you can ask questions when you're here. Piggybacking on what Commissioner Deloach said, this Saturday, May 4th, from 10 to 2 is Public Safety Day in Wendell. And it's going to be on Campen Street in our downtown. There will be vehicle demonstrations, children's activities, jump up things, and all that kind of stuff, food. And this will be your opportunity to sign up for Camp Choices. So it's always a fun day. I hope that you will come out and bring your kids and join them for that. I attended the Imagine Wake Alliance. It's a quarterly thing that I do. And this particular topic this time was regarding utilities, and for the very first time we had a panel discussion instead of just one person. And we had representative there from Duke Power, Dominion Energy, and the City of Raleigh regarding water. They talked about their CIPs, all their plans, the things that they're doing. It was very interesting to hear just beyond Wendell and all over Wake County what their plans are, their challenges in providing services, how they're going to probably meet those challenges. They've got some unique things that they're going to do to try to meet some of those challenges. Wendell came up several times, actually, and I don't think it was because I was sitting there. I think that it's because this area of the county is experiencing a tremendous amount of growth. And so some of the challenges that they're meeting is how to get those things to us. So that was very interesting to be there for that. I wanted to give everybody a quick reminder, too. I thought about it tonight while I was sitting here, and I made a note to take a look at the town website. Someone asked me the other day, when was the BMX show? And so I was like, gosh, you know, that it is time for the BMX show. So I looked into it and found out. But then I later looked on the town website, and it was right there on the calendar. So I'm guilty of it as well. Take a look at the town website. There's a lot of great information on there. It's townofwendellnc.gov. And it's more than just the calendar of events. There's a lot of stuff on there. Probably more than you ever want to know about what's going on in Wendell, but it's all right there. And I also want to invite all of you Thursday to the Wake Technical Community College Wendell campus ribbon cutting at 5:30. This is a huge thing that's happening for the town of Wendell. I'm very, very excited about it. And they're having a community event. You can tour the buildings, go inside all of the things, the training facilities for first responders, the classrooms, everything is going to be open and available for you to look at. And I've been in all the buildings and seen the things, and I highly encourage you to go. I'm so proud of that coming to this area. I don't even have words for how excited I am about it. It's going to really be a game changer for our young people and people who want to go back to school and choose a different career path or further their own career ambitions. So please come to that and join us for that. That's this Thursday. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned.